happy to bring to this forum one of our former Harding students who now works at CNN. And he's a very active member of NBS. We really enjoyed his time when he was with us at Harding. His name is LaRell Reynolds, and you see him right there. LaRell, it's great to see you again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm actually really excited to pass on my knowledge.
You really hit the ground running, and you know, about the time you graduated, the economy was also kind of crazy then too. So you really you did well. So let's start off by talking about what you're doing now. What is your job at CNN?
Yes, I'm a cross-platform associate producer, and what it entails is I do rotations in different business units, which is mainly in the news gathering or production side of things. And it's like a sampler. I get to hop into a department, make friends, build connections, learn skill sets, then go to another place and then kind of be more collaborative and share what I learned and keep growing.
So are you doing a lot of writing? Is that it? Is it more of a digital platform, or are you still working in video some, or do you do like a mix of different things?
We have rotations in so many in so many facets. So there, if you watch CNN, there's this ticker and there's a black scroll. We have a rotation with them. Um,
Where
I have
you physically type up the information?
Well, it's automatic, but you have to write it and then you put it into a program. And
Right.
so I have done rotation with domestic working on show teams. I have also package produce, which is one of my favorite, where I get a script and I have to match videos and work with an editor and kind of produce something, kind of turning words into magic. Um, Last year I spent almost a whole year field producing, and that was just a blast. So I was on call, and if there was breaking news, for instance, almost a year ago I was in Jacksonville, Florida, when a plane overshot the runway and it landed into this river and into a bay. And so I got a phone call, get there as soon as possible. And I've worked with a reporter, and we were just news gathering and producing live shots for CNN, and then turning something for package or for digital. Another rotation is literally writing for digital, just trending stories or just anything that's of kind of evergreen interest. Um, we have a I know we just have a lot. We have even a sports rotation, in which this is the craziest because sports to me was I can handle it, but it's international sports, which is something I had no knowledge in, and that was basically video editing, highlights, and it kind of reminded me of the skills I learned in college when I was doing highlights for our athletic program. So I don't know, it's all these transferable skill sets I learned in college that became actually applicable in the real world.
Talk a little bit too about your first job, because I know it wasn't your dream job, but at least kind of got things started. How did that happen? And you can talk about where it was and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it took me a while to actually get my first job, and that was kind of the biggest ooh, maybe I should have started working on this while I was in college, because I didn't get the offer for local news until October. So I was pretty much fun employed for 5 months looking for that job. And so it was 3 hours away from my parents' house, when I left college. So it was nice to be somewhat close nearby. That starting salary might not be the best, but it was just fun to grind it out. So I was at WDBJ7 in Roanoke, Virginia, and it working local news is it's a little special snow globe. I feel everyone should have experience of working local, because there's no other experience when you literally feel your family is your coworkers, because you're not getting paid much. You're all working under very stressful environments together, and then you're, I don't know, you just become so close with your like colleagues, and that is very I guess learning how to be adaptable to different personalities is like something that like a lot of people should be able to they will learn when they work local news. But the drawbacks is people kind of want to make high salaries when they get out of college. They're like, I don't want to take that job because it makes like 24,000. But I've always gave the advice, especially for like the interns I've like seen, that like if you want to work on air or want to work one of these like higher jobs, you should go to local, build up your skill sets, fail miserably, learn how to be better, and then you will have like a stronger reel. And so then you can like start playing in like the not major league, but definitely not minor leagues, like in the higher markets.
Yeah, you don't want your mistakes necessarily broadcast internationally, which is
Yeah.
what CNN. You don't just mess up in front of the nation, you mess up in front of the planet.
Yeah.
I think my contract had the word universe in it. Like they own this content copyright in the universe. And I was like, what am I signing? Anyway, so how long were you in that first job before the next step came?
It was actually exactly 2 years. It was the craziest, like, oh, 2 years ago was my first day. Bye. I'm moving on. And I know I was started getting the itch maybe like a year and some change in. Where like I kind of want to go somewhere. I wanted to go closer to my family, and there was a job opening in DC for CNN. And this is actually an interesting lesson because I applied for a job and the recruiter was like, we like you. We just don't think you're ready for this position. And so I was like, well, before we hang up, is there anything I could do to stay with CNN? And so I was offering myself up, and they're like, oh, well, actually, you might be good for this position. It's a lower position, but you will have to go to Atlanta. And I was like, okay, done. So and it like that process went so quickly because like I wasn't initially going for that position that made me move to Atlanta. And so I filled like kind of a problem for them. And so they're like, oh, I guess we have filled this position that it was going to eventually open up. But hey, we have a good candidate.
You know, it's interesting that you brought that up because I also had that experience. That happened more than once where I interviewed for one job and well, I wasn't the quite right fit for that. But then later, I didn't even realize it at the time. Later, the recruiter kind of touched back and said, "Oh, by the way," and which was unexpected and a nice surprise. In one case, it was actually a better job than the one that I had applied for. So you don't want to burn bridges because you may, okay, you maybe it's not personal. You didn't get
Yeah.
this position, but it doesn't mean they hate you or they don't like you or they don't want you. It just means it's not the right fit, but maybe there's something else down the road. So you mentioned some of this. What is one of your favorite things that you got a chance to do? You mentioned field producing earlier. Is there another time where you were just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm getting to do this?
So it was all about these incremental steps that allowed me to field produce. And that was mainly in 2016, where I got to work on the production side of the CNN's like special nights where we're doing the Super Tuesdays and all the like election nights.
Mhm.
So I've got to like build a relationship with people who are not in Atlanta, and they got to like see like, okay, LaRell is reliable. He will show up on time, which is actually pretty a big deal for people. Like, can you
Yeah.
show up on time, have a positive attitude?
Actually, I tell people that. How did you get to CNN? And I'm like, I did my job. I showed up when I was supposed to, and I just did what I was expected to do. And then suddenly people are like, it's I won't say easy, but It's amazing how what we think of as little things go a long way with coworkers and with managers. Anyway,
Yeah.
please continue.
No, and that's so true. I've seen people come straight from college to CNN, and they've not built that professionalism when they're handling. And I was like, wow, I'm really grateful that I spent like 2 years in local. So I've kind of like brushed that kind of aside and got myself into shape and like, okay, I shouldn't just leave work an hour early because I have nothing else to do, like what other people might. But
Well,
back in 20, sorry.
well, I was going to say, what affects it affects a ton of people because you're working on this larger team, and if
Mhm.
one of you can't pull the weight, the whole team suffers. Anyway,
Yeah.
please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Oh no, but that's so right. Like we are, it's the thing what I learned in local was like you learn to work as a team because everything in the news industry is team based. And so much of like how my relationship affects that relationship, it interlocks and you kind of understand that those dynamics. And then what I also learned, especially in the early years of CNN, was like learning to handle getting yelled at and then not reciprocating it. Like it's almost like you have to diffuse the tension. And so when I was in the control room, it's like everyone's like arguing or yelling, and they're not yelling at a person, they're just wanting to articulate their communication to whatever they're saying. So they're kind of like on edge. And so you're like, they're not yelling at me. They're just yelling at the situation. It's fine. We will get through this.
How do you
So
how do you respond when you're set on fire? Is how I used to explain it to people. Yes. How do you respond when you set on fire? You yell.
yeah.
You're right. It's never personal. It's I need this, I need it right now, and I don't have time to be sweet and say please and thank you because we're on TV right now.
So dealing in that type of environment will allow me to like actually become so much more, I guess, like centered when I'm actually dealing with like crazy hecticness. So when I was out in the field, so I got to go to in 2016, I was sent out to the Pulse shootings, which that was just like so crazy. But it was like such a great experience to just be out there in an actual like tragedy where like I think that area took a pause and become so reflective. And so I got out of it so much more than what I would have if I stayed inside like the studio or stayed inside the control room. So like, that was such an amazing experience in 2016. But like the best experience was the conventions. I like my mom is probably still jealous that I got to go to the Democratic convention because it was, I would say 2016 was probably like the all-stars of all-stars of speakers. It was a blast. And I was working like 14-hour days, but it was so worth it. And funny enough, because I built up my reputation of being reliable, I was not even on the A list to go. It was that after like day one or two, they realized they were so short staffed. So my boss was like, can you just get on a plane? And you might not have social security clearance for the Republican convention, but can you just go to Cleveland and just like help out whichever way, like I have faith in you that you can help out the team. So my responsibilities, and which was not the thing I was, I don't know, I wouldn't say trained, but I wasn't mainly doing in my home base, was I was miking up guests and I was also mixing audio. So I was literally doing a skill set that really wasn't my primary, but I was like, I can do it. I'm going to put my best effort in. And so I was working with the international team and Espanol team. So literally like I know some Spanish, but I'm not like the most fluent person. But like I said, great attitude and we got it done. And so they took me on to the Democratic conventions. And so we became like a like mini team for like a week and a half.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you made a good impression with a lot of people that work in other places. That's the thing. You never know in this industry how just a single conversation with someone will open doors you never even saw. So we do have others here on the call. I want to open up and see if there's anyone that has any questions for LaRell. Anyone?
Yeah, I got one. So when you went to Atlanta to work for CNN, was that like a big move for you? Were you just like did you have any struggles moving to Atlanta? Like, I guess since it seemed like you didn't move very much from your hometown, was it a big jump for you?
Thanks for that question, Matthew. And yeah, you become so, in the early stages of your career, you become so transient where you kind of like have to realize like you can't really settle into a city. And so I kind of look at moving to Atlanta, which is like trying to be optimistic and like this is a fun experience. Um, I always wanted to move to Los Angeles, so I had that choice like, should I move to Los Angeles or should I like actually get a job or like just be stable with that job in Atlanta? So I had that like little kind of conflict
Yeah.
in my personal self, and I was like, I guess I'll just move to Atlanta. It's a new city, new experiences. I just don't know what it'll bring, so I'll just be open minded to that. And seriously, like living here for 6 years, it's been so nice, and it's actually a nice city. So I wouldn't discount cities if that was a like choice between different jobs. Unless, like for me, I don't really like the cold, so you probably won't see me in South Dakota unless they're a high-paying or fun job. So
Yeah, I want to move to Atlanta or LA in the future. So, yeah.
if you want to do that, I would make the step to like work in a market that's nearby and like a smaller market, or so that like because most people naturally move to the bigger market, so you will build your network, and so then they can help you bridge your gap to like did you say Miami?
Atlanta and like maybe like California, like LA or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm more film track rather than news, but
gotcha.
I'm open to, I guess freelancing. So I guess I could do news. But
So Matthew, I did so much like freelance, hence the word free, when in the film industry when I was in college. So over the summers, I was like a PA on sets, building kind of relationships with people like local filmmakers. I grew up in DC area, Northern Virginia. So over the summers, I would just like hop on productions and kind of like build relations. But then I realized like the news industry is more stable than the film industry, especially on the production side. So I remember when that choice I made to go to Atlanta, I got a soft job offer to be a PA on the set of this MTV show called, I think it was Awkward. And so I was like, that's like a chance of work if I move to Los Angeles, be super far away, coast to coast. But I have a real job offer to Atlanta. So I kind of like took that job offer. But if I were, my like suggestion is like, Atlanta has been such a huge hub for the film industry, and there's so many production um, studios out of here, like Tyler Perry and Pinewood Studios, that it's become like the Los Angeles of the East. Also, like I still kind of like sprinkle my, or I guess like dip my toes into the film industry because I also help out with different film festivals in Atlanta. So I do that on like when I'm not working. So I help out. I was a screener. I watch submissions for the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival. I volunteer for the Atlanta Film Festival, and I help out with this like out on film festival. So like I do a lot of film festival work, and that kind of like lets me still interact with like the film world. So even if you do have like a full-time job in news, you can always still like work in the film industry part-time on your off days, or you can just go full-time. So it's whatever your
so
comfort level is.
so like what I know like you said like you want a steady job. Why do you think you wanted to stay job rather than freelance? Is that more just your path that you wanted to take rather than freelance?
Yeah, and everyone has like their own kind of comfort level of like their finances. For me, it was just like, let me just play it safe. But if you really want to do filmmaking, I would say try to make a great impression as a PA, maybe work like have like a limit. Like if I am not making stable work in 2 years, then I will reevaluate. Just like keep yourself accountable with your career growth. But if you want to work in the film industry, go for it.
Yeah, it's my end goal. So
So what do you want to do exactly? Do you want to
so
work on like
realistically, I want to do probably like DP work or like second AC, first AC, like kind of build up in the
yeah.
camera group. I wouldn't mind audio and other jobs to get by, but that's like my main like set focus.
Hmm. Do you have a camera that you shoot with, or do you do projects on the side?
Currently I've just like a regular Canon DSLR that I shoot with, and I'm slowly building my reel to send out to different people. So
What I've learned that, especially in the film industry, is that like reels might get your foot in the door, but working as a like just a PA on set and then just building relationships with like the AC team. So you'd be like, let me work as a PA, but like work specifically for the cameras and let me help grab like their luggage around and their equipment. And so then you'll build that relationship with those people and then they might help train you and put them underneath their wing. So that might be like a good pathway for you is to like kind of get adopted into that department.
do you recommend anything? Because I know COVID kind of like it kind of got into my summer plans of I was going to move to New Jersey and go to Philly to
Mhm.
help like I guess do some freelancing there. Um, I guess COVID kind of like I guess I can't do it anymore. Is there anything to like recommend to a filmmaker? I guess someone in news to be doing while they're like sitting at home.
What year are you?
I'm going into my senior year,
Okay.
so I still have another year.
Yeah. So I would just say just record things and kind of like have a narrative of whatever you're producing. It could, you don't even have to use your Canon. You can even use your cell phone. Just like just small video projects that can just help you sharpen your skills over the summer because I feel like everyone's getting affected by the lack of production. So just like staying encouraged and staying sharp with your skills will help you out. Then once you graduate, I would, or once people get kind of comfortable doing production, which I would look at what's it called? I guess Craigslist as kind of places where they have job openings or kind of like we need crew and kind of get your
Mhm.
foot in the door. Another way is going to film festivals and meeting filmmakers and meeting crew there. Like for the Atlanta Film Festival, which happens in like March, April, they typically have workshops and there are people who kind of help network at those workshops. So wherever you are, just look up local or bigger city film festivals because that's where the filmmakers are and you kind of want to be in with the like-minded people. And also don't expect to get paid because that's probably like just like agree to like free things for a while and then start asking for money. Build up your name, build up your reputation, build up those networking skills because networking, being in a place and networking, it's probably more valuable than getting like than arguing over like $10 an hour.
It would be nice if you could have somebody write that down so you could give it to the landlord for rent.
I know.
But I'm doing really good freelance work.
That's why
For
it's like
free.
the worst thing, because you're like, oh, you kind of need money to survive.
um, very interesting insights. Here's the funny thing: people aren't producing as much, but people are consuming a lot of videos. So if you can find a way to get something out, there's a lot of people sitting around with nothing to do.
Yeah.
You might be able to catch the eye of somebody that you normally wouldn't. Also,
And
I've found that in this industry, I'm sure it's this way in LA, if not even more so. It's a place where a lot of people go to. So you run into a lot of people who don't have roots in that city. So it's easier to make friends because you're sharing a business. You know, you're sharing this. Hey, I moved here to do da 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 da, and it's easier to strike up friendships, I think, than it is in tighter, smaller communities where everybody knows everybody. Because TV kind of, and I'm sure it's this way with film, they kind of have their own community. So packing up and moving, you may not know anybody, but it doesn't take long to meet other people just like you who are there to pursue their career dreams. That's what I found anyway. LaRell, you would agree, I guess.
oh yeah, it was almost like, so when I first started CNN, I came in, was it November? So like in December, was like, we're having our own holiday party because we all can't go home, so we're all family. So I was like the chairperson of like, okay, we're gonna meet at this place. We're all gonna celebrate ourselves. So there's gonna be people there that are gonna like welcome you to whatever group, and there's also gonna be people just like you. Like if you're working the film, there's gonna be PAs. They're just your same age, just want to hustle and grind. And you know what's so interesting about like this time, like you said, there's no big productions. So there's a lot of entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of like services like Patreon that like people can subscribe to. So if you produce content, you might get people to actually like go and kind of be your personal fan, which helps build your clout. And so you could also use that to leverage to get paid for like an actual company or job. So it's exciting. So I wouldn't be too pessimistic about this environment, but I understand everyone's getting affected. So that's like the good thing to realize, that like you're not in this alone, like everyone. And since everyone is wanting to consume content. So if you're creative, Matthew, I feel like you can do a great job.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Laurel?
I have a question. So as a graduating senior, I'll graduate in the spring of next year. Just trying to get my foot in the door somewhere. I'm like up to working in news, up to working in like technology, like behind the scenes. I don't want to be on camera. So like what's like getting a job after college? Like what's your best advice?
Where do you live, Aaron?
I live out in PA, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So I sent a lot of cold resumes out, and that was probably not the most effective way. So I would look up your alumni and see if they're working at any place. Because a lot of times people want to hire so quickly and they don't want to look at a pile of resumes. So if you have any connection to any person that's working in any market, they can help highlight your resume and then kind of put it at the top of the hiring manager. So like, for instance, for me, if you would have been like, hey, Laurel, next year, can you help me? I can be like, oh, okay, let me give your resume to the person who like would hire kind of like entry level jobs. So you have so many connections. You probably like are getting overwhelmed. I understand. But you have people in NBS that you've met. You have people in your university that you have contact with, and you still have your own kind of students, that your own colleagues. Because there's an interesting thing with my class that graduated. It has happened coincidentally or not coincidentally that like 3 people in my graduating class worked at the same market at the same station. So it was like, they all kind of helped each other out to get to that same station. So I would say this next year, your senior year, just like be attentive, be kind of like, be more aware, be mindful of your connections, your relationships with people who are seniors as well, and juniors and sophomores, and even freshmen. And professors. I would just say, just keep building your relationships.
Thank you.
Did you have any internships like for your school? Like, did they require one?
Did they require one? I don't know if they required one, but I
Yeah.
did do a internship at okay, I guess we did have one. I did do an internship at a radio station in DC. So did that really help me? I didn't go into radio, but I'm still Facebook friends with people. So it's kind of interesting. I still have that relationship with people that I might use in the future, or they could use me if there was a story and like, okay, I can collaborate with that person in that story. So you just never know, with some kind of relationship might pay off in like 10 years or 20 years.
Yeah,
But I did do an internship.
I'm from Pennsylvania too, and my school requires an internship. I know it's hard now because I guess businesses are like trying to recuperate and all this stuff. So an internship is that will be in my spring semester. So
Yeah, actually that could work. If you can land a spring internship, that works really well. I mean, if you did an internship like in your city town, so you can actually make face-to-face interactions, because a lot of times they probably want to hire interns afterwards. But the issue that hiring managers get into is like, we like this person, but that position's open now and they have to go back to school. And so there's this issue of like, well, I don't know if we have this position in the next year, but we like you as a person. So having an internship could really lead into a full-time offer right afterwards. So I will finger crossed for you, Matthew and Aaron, if you have an internship in the spring.
Yeah, internships have been a challenge for us because, to answer your question, we do require it. And we had a lot of people that had great internships lined up this summer. And of course, they're either on hold or they've fallen through.
yeah,
So,
all my friends that are seniors now are going through that. My friends had a couple things with production companies in the area, but then they just sent out emails saying that, hey, like, we can't hold these anymore. I'm sorry. So our school is making us just take 4 classes to cover it, which is sad, but I mean, I guess that's what they gotta do.
well, and don't discount some of the ideas too. Of course, this is LaRell's forum and not mine, about, volunteering to do things when you can. You may not be able to commit like to an official internship, but yeah, the film festivals, I mean, I love that idea, LaRell. Just go and just do whatever, because sometimes just people even recognizing your face, and then you show up later and they're like, oh, we worked with this guy. He's a good one. I like him. So much of this is just getting, oh, I like him. I trust them. I know them. It's not just a random name on a piece of paper. So LaRell, so what is next for you? What are your goals? What are you wanting to do?
Okay, so this is so exciting and also stressful. So right now I'm in grad school and I'm getting an MBA. So, and it's actually so hard because I'm doing a full-time job and doing an online program at the same time. So that's going swimmingly. But I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic about it. And so we'll see. I do have an actual internship this summer for it. So it's kind of funny that like you guys talk about internships, but like mine's virtual. So I'm just hoping to make a good impression and hopefully I can get a job offer. But if that's not the case, then I'm fine. that will actually make me change careers slightly, hopefully, but still work in like, I guess, creative service production. So it's kind of the same skill sets in that like marketing or kind of, I don't know, being creative.
Well, and a business acumen, that's the one thing that we really didn't talk about very much in terms of film, is that there's a lot of fundraising and a lot of money that's involved, and you spend a lot of time asking for funding in order to be able to do the creative things that you want to do. So
that is so true. And that's why I skew away from so many film festivals in the pre-production planning or the pre-planning, because I was like, I just can't do the fundraising offers to the donors, and I'll help out the day of, clean tables, be nice face, but it is such a huge, it's a huge ask for those people to help fundraise. But that's such a huge part of working in that creative environment in that industry, because you have to basically sell a product that and be like, hey, this is something that you should invest in, and either your company will give you discounts if your employees come, if you want to offer up X amount of dollars. So it's literally, I feel like the biggest advice is building relationships, and it's okay, and then like to build that trust factor.
well, and it also brings up the point that media is everywhere. It's interesting to think of, okay, we think television is in this box and film is in this box and online is in this box, and it's not. There's so many, not really so much my career, but watching other friends through the years and how their careers have kind of spread out into areas that we never really imagined. We were talking earlier about one of the alumni, it was a friend of yours, who is in video, but he's doing video for NPR. We think of NPR as being radio and podcasts, but he actually is a video editor for NPR. So
yeah,
the rules just aren't there anymore.
Mm-hmm. And what's so interesting and so exciting and scary for me is that so many people, because I come from the video editing background, have those skill sets, and it's become like everyone just knows how to edit. I'm like, whoa, I went to school for this. How are you like a social media influencer having better editing skills than me? So making me like actually like, sharpen my skills. Like, okay, I gotta like learn how to storytell better. Like I gotta like, I don't know, make myself the better candidate, because so many people have just cling on to social media, and now it's not just like the video, it's not that photo, it's like the video element. It's now the whole production element of just like a simple like TikTok or kind of like trending meme that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can also represent, what the fun thing is, especially Matthew, like another like thing that you could do, like if you want to work as like that video producer by shooting, you can work for a company and be on their marketing team. And then you can also make your videos, kind of feel like you're in that production. So don't think of like film as the thing you set in the movie theater. You can think of your finished product as someone that's can be scrolling and watching on their phone. So we're changing the landscape of how people are consuming media.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's exciting though. It's these current tools have really kind of unleashed creativity. Mm-hmm. Really, the question is monetizing it. You want to get paid for what you love, and that, that like you said, you still got to pay rent somehow. Yeah. So it's nice if you can combine the two. But even if you can't, you do what you got to do here, and you can still never give up on the other end. I actually have a friend in Atlanta, a guy that I went to high school with, he's a computer nerd. He works with computer stuff, and he started doing more freelance stuff and quit the day-to-day, and now he's an actor in Atlanta. I see him all the time. He's either a police officer or he's in the boardroom, where they have a generic board. He's one of the guys sitting there in a suit. He's like He's actually acting. It just cracks me up. He's been in several series that are there shot in Atlanta, and now I think he's working on more independent projects with some of those filmmakers. And he's a computer nerd. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he'll pick up a job when he needs to, but he started this whole acting thing in he's in his 50s. I mean, you think you have to be 22 to
Yeah.
go be an A-lister and move to LA, but nope, he's doing it.
I will say, living here, like it's literally Los Angeles, like the Hollywood, because I run into so many actors just randomly, and I'm like, I meet people at work, and I have to be professional, but like when I'm at work, I'm like starstruck. Like I just remember, like I saw Jesse Eisenberg just walking across the street. I was like, went to a local coffee shop, like from my neighbor or from my apartment complex, and then like he just walking. I'm like, that's Jesse. Or I had a couple years ago, that same apartment complex, the kids of Stranger Things live there. And so you just like randomly like run into Nancy. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like an actual actor. And then there's a show on YouTube called, I think, Cobra Kai. And one of the actors like always works out in the gym. And then like I would literally see him with a piece of paper rehearsing his lines. And because he always wore like Cobra Kai like wardrobe around. And then he's in a commercial, like, oh my gosh, I like saw that, like I like see him all the time. So you just never like, and that's the thing. There's so much hustle in Atlanta that it's booming with so much opportunity. So Matthew, it's like really affordable if you want to move here. And there's a lot of like-minded people who want to do work. So I would say come to Atlanta if I were you.
Let's talk a little bit about, since this is an NBS forum,
Oh yeah.
talk about NBS when we went to LA. When was that? What year was that? I don't even remember. Because
In
you had a chance to do
2011.
some interesting opportunities during the convention. What all did we do? I don't even remember.
Okay, and this is actually the start of, it was 2011 because it was right before I graduated. So this is like literally the start of why I kind of like decided to go to CNN. So Ginger had connections to CNN Los Angeles, and so that was the first time I got to go to like the Los Angeles bureau or just be inside like a big corporation and see how production works. And my eyes were like, this is so cool. I didn't realize there's so many people that do so many things because we're so used to like person in front, and that's it. And there's like a whole audio team, there's whole technical directors, and like a whole board of buttons, and a whole room of makeup artists and chairs. It really feel like super like luxurious. And
I,
so
I actually remember the TD taking you under his wing with that control room, with the board, the board of all the buttons, and he was
yeah.
showing you what all the buttons were doing. I remember that moment.
I like that, and that sticks with you, those moments. And then we also went to the Univision, and we saw how they work. And then we went to a live taping of Melissa and Joey, and so that was nice. And so it was like a typical fun Hollywood, all the lights in production. And so NBS kind of gives you this opportunity to see like the production value at each city that's hosted in. And so that experience is so valuable to have because you might not like, you might think you want to go into something just because that's the only opportunity or the only thing you know about a specific company. But once you get that taste, once you understand how things work, you're like, oh wow, I like this a little bit better. So I hear you guys are coming to Atlanta next year. If things are fine, we'll see. I feel like asterisk, hopefully that's the plan. And so there's so much, I don't know who you guys reached out to, but there is so much production out of Atlanta. And so I'm hoping you guys get a taste of, I can't say where you guys are going, but I will say that we have CNN, the Weather Channel, we have various film studios. And so there is so much you might see. And then I would say reach out to professional sports and see their production. because we're really big into soccer here. We have football, we have basically all the major sports. And so I would say shoot for the stars on that. And if you are still a student working on NBS, Matthew, or anyone else who's looking at this, um, stay involved, make connections, and network with like not the people that you come with, but like the people that you might see. I know that like NBS, the convention can be competitive because you kind of want to win. But at the same time, what's more valuable than that trophy or that award is building relationships with people because they are going to go to the same direction or the same place as you are. And so they can help bring you along or with their journey and their ride.
Is there anything else that pops into your head, LaRell, that you want to share with students, NBS members? I mean, this is a strange time to be looking for work. So we're all trying to kind of keep our spirits up and think, okay, we can do this. So I don't know. You have any thoughts as we go into probably one of the strangest school years that we can imagine?
Yes. So here's some practical things that I think everyone should think about doing, which is building your online kind of presence and being as professional as possible. So if you have posts, let's scrub them now, whether that's on Facebook or Twitter. And the biggest thing is making your LinkedIn so professional and engaging, and then like just send out so many connections. Like you might not know who's connected to who that might help you get to a closer connection. So if you're not familiar with LinkedIn or anyone that's not familiar with LinkedIn, they kind of base people on degrees of separation. And so it's harder to talk to a recruiter if you're a third degree separation because you might not be able to send messages directly to them. However, let's say you connect to me and I'm friends with that recruiter, you're now like 2 degrees of separation. So, or 1 degree. And so you might have the capabilities to reach out to that recruiter. So I would connect with alumni at your university, people at NBS, people like me who do these video series, and just because I'm connected to like anchors. So like that's how easily connected you could be to like, I guess, like bigger fish people. So I would say that's a very practical thing that everyone can do is just like work on their online presence.